Rhode Island.
Yeah.
The coast.
Maryland?
Yeah.
Got it. So, Melanie, it turns out that Congress is more of a family affair than we might have thought. Now, that's nice, right? You know, we're supposed to be supporting our families, but not putting them on the payroll, right? What did you uncover?
So this is actually an old story. It's been for years and years. This has been a problem, and happily, 60 Minutes decided to report on it this week, which brings it to the attention of lots of people. But first of all, members of Congress have so many different kind of pots of money, and most people have no idea all these things exist. They have their campaign committees, and then they have something called leadership PACs, and there are different rules that apply to both of them. But also, members of Congress are not allowed to hire family members on their official staff. There are anti-nepotism rules that prevent that, but there's nothing that prevents them from hiring their family members onto the campaign payroll. And some of them have hired 5 and 6 members of their families on the campaign payroll.
And then they work in their offices or on their campaigns?
They work in their campaigns, but they're really of dubious what they do is not necessarily clear, and how important they are. It seems like it's really a way for members of Congress who go out and fundraise all the time, send you fundraising emails telling you how you're going to be supporting their next reelection and you're going to be supporting these important policies. But really what you're doing when you're making these contributions is often putting money into the bank accounts of these family members. So like an example of this where you might think, this seems a little unnecessary is the campaign of Rodney Alexander, a Republican from Louisiana who recently retired to take a job with Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal, paid his daughters nearly $190,000 in salary over a 2-year period, and he wasn't even running for re-election. So what was that about?
What were they doing?
Not clear. And then when he was asked about it by 60 Minutes, he says, well, who can I trust if not my daughters? And that's often the same response you get. Ron Paul had put, I think, at least 5 members of his family on different payrolls, the presidential payroll, his presidential campaign, his campaign committee, and his leadership PAC. So that's one of the problems that we're seeing.
But there is a rule, right? Not a law maybe, but a rule in Congress that you cannot have a family member on your congressional payroll.
That's right. On your congressional payroll, but nothing about the campaign payroll. There is a bill that David Vitter actually introduced, but he has to ban this practice. He has a
legendary family man, by the way.
Right, legendary family man. He has no co-sponsors, didn't want to talk to 60 Minutes about it, and has put absolutely no effort into it, so I don't think he's too serious about it. But we are talking to members of Congress over in the House now who watched the piece and said, wow, these are the kind of problems Americans really do care about. It's it's why Americans are so cynical about their members of Congress. They see things like this and think, gosh, you guys are really just there to benefit yourselves and not work for the public interest.
Now, are there limits on what they can use their campaign funds for?
There are limits on what they can use their campaign funds for, and they're pretty strict. And that's why we have, for example, 2 members of Congress who are currently under investigation by the Ethics Committee, Democrat Rob Andrews of New Jersey and Republican Don Young of Alaska, for misusing their campaign funds. But then members of Congress have this whole other pot of money. They're called leadership PACs, and there's no ban on using leadership PAC funds for personal use, like there is that prohibition for campaign funds. So members of Congress use their leadership PAC funds for whatever they want. You want to go out to a fancy dinner? You want to stay at the Ritz-Carlton? You want to go to Boca Raton in February? Sure, that's what your leadership PAC funds are for.
Leadership PACs. So do all members of Congress have one?
Almost all members of Congress have one. Not every single member has one, but it's a huge number do. Now, originally, the concept of leadership PACs was leadership PACs were formed so that members could use that money to help them win leadership races. I think the first person who actually used a leadership PAC in this way was Henry Waxman, many congressmen Democrat from California. And members of Congress, I don't know how much the public knows this, but in order to get a chairmanship, very frequently, you have to have contributed generously to your colleagues because these are voted positions. So leadership PAC funds were used in order to give money around, spread money around so that you'd have more support in order to obtain your chairmanship.
So running for like an internal position.
An internal position. Chairman, minority
to
whip.
make friends so they could get enough votes so they could end up being a chairman of a committee or something like that, right?
Exactly. But of course, it didn't take long before those funds started to be being abused.
So members of Congress can solicit contributions either to their campaign or to their leadership PAC, right?
Or sometimes both.
Or both. Yeah, I'm sorry. Right. Both.
Why limit yourself?
Exactly. And on top of that, they've got their congressional salary and all the money that goes for the congressional office and staff and all those perks, right?
Exactly. And, a lot of the people who contribute to leadership PACs, for example, are lobbyists and members of trade associations who want something. And they know perfectly well what leadership PAC funds are used. They know that members of Congress are using these, many members, not all members, but many members are using these PACs for personal use. But, they're happy to help contribute to that because that keeps them having a closer relationship with that member of Congress.
Any other examples of members of Congress, some of the outrageous things they've done with their money?
Yeah, well, there's one example
you talked about on 60 Minutes.
One of the other things that members of Congress can do is they can lend their campaign committees money and then they can charge interest for it. So we found that
wait, the PAC lends
the member can take their personal money, lend it to their campaign for their election. This happens frequently, and a lot of members don't charge any interest for that, or they charge low interest. But some members of Congress have charged rather high interest rates. So, for example, Grace Napolitano has charged her campaign committee 18% interest for money that she loaned her campaign, resulting in a payment she made about over $200,000 on that loan. So she brought in a lot of money. Another representative.
Wait, you can get a loan at a bank for 1% today, right? Or 2%? I don't know.
Something considerably lower.
A lot less than 18%.
A lot less than 18%.
18% is credit card level interest.
And Representative Paul Brown of Georgia, a Republican, loaned his campaign committee money to and has collected. He loaned himself $309,000 and then collected nearly $29,000 in interest after telling the Federal Election Commission that he wouldn't be charging any interest at all.
Good Lord. And it's just, every time we talk about these violations in Congress, it's just, why isn't there some ethics committee or somebody you could go to and say, now here's the evidence, and then have them take some action? But that never happens, right? They just protect themselves.
They protect themselves, and then you have the problem with the dysfunctional FEC. And if we had a more vigorous FEC that was really doing enforcement and was doing random audits of campaign committee funds, we'd really see members shape up. But we don't have those things right now.
Yeah, well, at least we know what's going on. Thanks to CREW, Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, and Melanie Sloan, who just celebrated your 10th anniversary, right? Wasn't it?
Yes, we did.
The party? I know it was at the party. I couldn't remember how many years it was. Your calls, your questions, your comments, welcome at 866-55-PRESS. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show. That's TAWKR TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is 26 minutes after the hour here. It is the Bill Press Show on a Friday morning. Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington. Melanie Sloan, founder and executive director, here in the studio with us. Melanie, what this latest scandal and that you've been working on for a long time? You just said it's nothing new. It's been going on and on. But the problem is it's been going on for so long. What about the ethics committees, either in the Senate or the House? Do they function?
Only if it's just so beyond the pale. Like when we had the problems with Senator John Ensign, who'd had the affair with his campaign staffer who was married to his chief of staff, and it was a huge scandal.
And his parents were giving
the $90,000 severance payment. Like then they did. Then they actually were prepared finally with they had a special counsel.
So it's got to be like really, really bad.
Really, really bad. But short of really, really bad, it is very hard for them to do anything. And I think it's like junior high school almost over there. They never want to sit in judgment of their colleagues. It's very hard to ask for your colleague's vote one day and be sitting in judgment of them the next. None of them feel like this is why their constituents sent them to Washington to work on these issues. You can be sympathetic to that. It's like thinking about ethics isn't, what most people, they come to Congress maybe to work on agriculture or some other kind of thing. But on the other hand, most Americans really care about the ethics of Congress. It's in the 2012 elections, there were polls showing that Americans, this was like their second issue, was the ethics and corruption in government. And they really want to see clean government. And, we see these kinds of things and people become more and more discontented and dissatisfied with their members of Congress. And I think members really ought to say that ethics ought to be a primary issue for them, ethics and campaign finance issues, because they want people